we're putting an ASTRoTURF facility in Darasol, an ASTRoTURF facility in Denry, an ASTRoTURF facility in Nichols Secondary, an ASTRoTURF facility and a synthetic track in Sioux Frere.
And that is what, gentlemen, we're looking to do. Think of sports as a business.
The idea of putting away the lawnmower forever definitely sounds appealing, especially on some hot days like today.
But what seems too perfect of a replacement for grass could actually be dangerous for your kids and pets during the summer months. And 13 Action News anchor Nina Porciuncula now explains what you should know before installing some synthetic turf, Nina.
Well, pretty much all over the valley right now, you're going to see synthetic grass just like this one in this field. It stays green for a long time. You don't have to maintain it. You don't even have to water it. And it saves you a lot of money. But the problem with this one is it gets too hot. We're talking about 120 degrees to 180 degrees here. Kim Kohat got rid of real grass and installed an artificial one in her backyard last week. Synthetic turf gets as hot as 170 degrees.
So if you want your players on the field, not on the sideline, see your ASTRoTURF representative for everything you need to make an informed choice about the safety of your field. ASTRoTURF, the closest to natural grass. In any sport, at any level of play, your player's dreams and season can abruptly end with a heartbreaking ACL or ankle injury. The Journal of Sports Engineering and Technology, Volume 223, reports that lower extremity injuries account for 50% of all sports injuries. And it's not just contact with opposing players that causes these injuries. It's contact with the playing surface. In fact, according to findings published by the Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine in 2010, about 70% of ACL injuries are related to contact with the playing surface. More specifically, the amount of resistance a playing surface exerts on a player's foot as it rotates. The more resistance, the more torque, the more risk of injury. However, 2 independent studies demonstrate the type of synthetic turf you purchase can have a dramatic effect on these injuries to your players. A recent NFL Charities Foundation study conducted by Michigan State University and published in the Journal of Sports Engineering and Technology found that a commonly used synthetic turf design with wider fiber rows and heavy infill may lead to more cleat penetration and greater rotational resistance on a player's foot. Notice how the infill encapsulates and traps the cleat. This rotational resistance causes the higher peak torques that cause injury. This same turf design was cited in a separate study commissioned by the National Football League's Injury and Safety Panel, published in the Journal of Sports Medicine, as resulting in 67% more ACL injuries and 31% more eversion or high ankle sprains than natural grass. Conversely, the Michigan State study found that next to grass, the gold standard for rotational traction, the difference is dig. Density, the quantity of fibers in the surface pile. Infill, the amount of sand and rubber particles added into the pile fibers. Gauge, the distance between the rows of turf fibers. It's simple. Fields with less fiber density, heavyweight infill, and wider rows, wide gauge, have high dig, which means players run a higher risk of having their cleats lock in the infill, causing high peak torque and greater risk of injury.
I don't know anyone that has ever said artificial turf is more environmentally friendly than real grass. Look, dinosaurs have died to make plastic turf because it's a petroleum product. So consider the carbon footprint and pollution generated just to manufacture it. Some of the elements used are kind of scary. Petroleum-based artificial grass, Class 2 road base, weed barrier fabric made out of who knows what, seaming tape, glue, staples, stakes, nails, and rubber infill. And that's before you get it installed. Do you really want to expose all of that to your children, pets, and family in your yard all day long for years on end? I didn't think so. No artificial lawn will last forever, and the cost is unreasonable. The pollution created to replace it is harmful to the environment. The disposal of old material is bad for the landfill. There just isn't anything about it that's sustainable. Sure, artificial lawns may not use water, but they certainly must be washed off periodically to clean away dust and dirt, to be sanitized of pet waste, and the runoff of the dirty and unsanitary water from cleaning an artificial lawn winds up entering into the sewer systems or directly draining right to the ocean, where you swim and eat seafood. Yum. Except for not requiring water to stay alive, artificial turf produces absolutely no environmental benefits. Plus, it provides no urban habitat enhancement for support for birds and small animals. In fact, it destroys it. Grass. It's good for you, your family, and the environment.
I'm Dr. Philip Landrigan. I'm a pediatrician. I chair the Department of Preventive Medicine in the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai.
Most common problems associated with synthetic turf are overfibrillation, dimensional instability, poor tuft bind, UV breakdown, high lead content, and seam rupture. Here's a shot of a 2.5-year-old turf system of a leading competitor, showing a classic case of overfibrillation and poor tuft bind. Climatic dimensional stability. Turf backing with poor climatic dimensional stability expands and contracts with changes in temperature and humidity, causing seam ruptures and line dancing.
It is simply very unhealthy for little kids to be running around, or even big kids or adults to be running around and trying to play vigorous sports in temperatures of 130, 140 degrees. So that's the first hazard. The second hazard is that these fields contain various chemicals, and the chemical hazards will vary from field to field depending upon the precise source of the crumb rubber that goes in. Some have been shown to contain lead, others contain the synthetic chemicals that go into the synthesis of synthetic rubber, things like 1,3-butadiene, which is a proven human carcinogen, or styrene, which is a neurotoxic chemical. And the butadiene and the styrene can vaporize out of the fields on hot days. Those chemicals can also run off from the fields after it rains, and the rainwater runs out. The toxic chemicals can be in the rainwater runoff and contaminate the nearby environment.
Game day, you can find machines like these dragging turf fields, making sure they're ready to play on. But is the turf safe? A new NBC News report says the chemicals in those little rubbery pellets may cause cancer.